Hello everyone, welcome back to another video with On Point Politics, and today I'm going to be doing my presidential map, Senate map, and House map updated forecast as of right now. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you want more content just like this. Just a disclaimer, I have lost my voice a little bit, was kind of on vacation for a few days, but I have lost my voice. So if you hear a little bit of weirdness in my voice, that's why that is the case. And so first things first, we're going to be looking at this pollster, which has Trump up by 18 percentage points in the state of Iowa. This is very big news because they are a pretty accurate pollster nationwide, and they were somewhat able to accurately predict the state of Iowa in 2020. In October of 2020, they had Trump +7. He ended up winning it by about 8.2 percentage points. So right a month before the election, probably even less than that, they were about a point off of the margin in Iowa. And so they are a somewhat pretty accurate pollster, and they are rated as like the top 5 pollster in the entire nation. And now he's up by 18 percentage points in the state. And what's very interesting is that my forecast has Iowa as an 18.3 percentage point victory for Donald Trump in the state of Iowa. So to kind of give credence to my model in my spreadsheets just a little bit, you can see that even somewhat accurate pollsters are kind of lining up with the results I have in these states as of right now. So we're going to be going through all these safe states for Donald Trump as of right now, those being Utah, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas, Nebraska's 3rd congressional district, the 1st district, and the at-large vote, Kansas, Oklahoma, Alaska, Arkansas, Missouri, Indiana, Kentucky, West Virginia, Tennessee, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, South Carolina. That puts Trump at 125 electoral college votes. And we're going to be adding a couple of more safe states here. We're going to see that Maine 2nd is safe Republican. That's going to be an almost 19-point victory when rounded out, brings him to 126 electoral votes. We're also going to be adding in the states of Iowa in that column. We're going to be adding Florida into the +15 column, as well as Ohio and the state of Texas. We have Florida at 17 points, Ohio and Iowa at around 18 points, and Texas at 17 for the former president. As of right now, we see that these states are now in the +15 column. In my latest forecast, this has not necessarily changed for quite some time. However, this would be the first time these states vote in the safe column for Donald Trump. You know, Donald Trump is gaining with Hispanics nationwide. That explains the shifts in Texas and Florida, as well as immigration being the #1 issue for this election cycle, according to most polling data. That's going to help states like Texas and Florida massively shift to Donald Trump in this scenario. And states like Iowa and Ohio have been trending right for years. So if Donald Trump isn't winning the national popular vote by 6.6%, as I have projected in my model, it would make sense for these states to trend along with the nation. For the safe Democrat states, we're going to be seeing major shifts for Donald Trump in these states. California, in this scenario, is only going to be a 15.7 percentage point win for Joe Biden. We see the state of Hawaii is not even in the safe column. However, we do have the states of Massachusetts, Vermont, Maryland, and DC in this column, which brings Biden to only 81 electoral college votes. Now, just to note, Kennedy, Stein, West, and Oliver are taking a lot of votes away from Biden nationally as of right now, as we can see in my House popular vote model, which is something we're going to get to towards the end of the video when we fill out the House map. We see that in 2024, Donald Trump would probably be leading the popular vote by 2.6 percentage points without third-party candidates, which would produce around a 312 to 226 electoral college scenario. But because Kennedy, Stein, West, and Oliver are taking so many votes away from President Biden, especially with Oliver, West, and Stein being extremely progressive candidates, even Oliver being the most libertarian, candidate on here. He is from the Libertarian Party. That was their new nominee, but he is the most progressive libertarian nominee they've nominated in quite a while. He's going to be taking away a lot of those, lower propensity Democrat voters that would have gone out and voted for Bernie Sanders, that kind of came out for Biden last time, that were able to actually get him around that 81 million vote range. And so a lot of those votes are going to be going to these candidates. Trump will suffer some losses with these candidates, mostly with Kennedy, but I think Biden is going to lose a lot more votes from Kennedy. I think Kennedy takes from Biden like 70 to 30 as of right now. For the likely Democrat states, we have the state of Washington at a 9-point victory. The state of Oregon is a 7-point victory for the incumbent president as of right now. Hawaii rounds out to around a 12-point victory as of right now. The national polling aggregate here is actually getting somewhat competitive. If we go to polling in the state as of right now, we see Biden is up by only 8 points in the only poll with third party candidates included. And there was actually an internal that had Trump up 2 or 3 points with third party candidates also included. That rounds out the polling average to around 2.5 points for Biden. While Biden in 2020, just for comparison, was leading the aggregate by 35 points, he ended up only winning by around 29. And so that just gives you an idea of how poorly Biden is polling in the state as of right now. To continue the list of the likely Democrat states, we also have Maine's first congressional district at around 9 percentage points, rounds out to about 10 as of right now. Connecticut, Delaware, and Rhode Island, as well as the state of New York, which is only forecasted as a 9.5-point victory. This is a state with a lot of illegal immigration coming their way. Crime is a very big issue. The economy is suffering here. This is going to be a big example of minority demographics shifting to the former president in a state like this. And we're going to be seeing a major shift from Biden's 23-point victory from last cycle that will only make it around a 9 or 10-point victory for the incumbent president as of right now. For the likely Republican states, these competitive states from 2020, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, as well as Nevada, overly overestimated Biden in polling data. And before we fill them out, I'm actually going to show you guys something to prove to you that Trump will more than likely be underestimated in polling aggregates once again. The national average is around a 2.9 percentage point lead. Donald Trump is projected to win the race by 6.6 percentage points in the national popular vote, which may be insane, but Biden's approval rating has fallen around 22 points, possibly even more than that from 2020. He's down minus 16.1. When you factor in the RCP aggregate, in the 2020 election day, RCP had him up 6.2 percentage points. Now, New York Times / Siena College, which is a very reputable pollster, polled people in May, asked, okay, who are you going to vote for this time? And then they asked that same group, who are you going to vote for in 2020? Or who did you vote for? And they voted Biden +3, which was not that far off from the real result. And we see when you adjust the polling error compared to the actual sample response in the real poll, which underestimates Biden by 1.5, you get Trump +5.5, which is only 1.1 points off from my model projection. And we see states like Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Arizona, Georgia were forecasted, as either somewhat competitive or very large victories, especially in the Sun Belt. Donald Trump's been gaining there massively this cycle. And we see they polled the same people, okay, who are you going to vote for? Or who did you vote for in 2020? And we see Biden +7 in Wisconsin, which is similar to the polling average. Biden led by 6.7 in RCP, 8.7 in 538. So we see kind of a median range of those polling aggregates here, suggesting that this pollster has really not fixed their polling averages, as well as multiple pollsters probably not fixing it. This is probably not the only instance of a polling aggregate not really fixing their polling errors, because we're getting similar margins to what the polls showed last time. The Sun Belt's a little bit different. We got some kind of mixed bags, but the Rust Belt polls are looking very similar to what they were in 2020. You apply the adjusted errors, you get Trump winning from 5 points upwards to 12 points in all these swing states. And we see Wisconsin, 9.3%. Margin for Trump according to my model. He wins by 6.4 in the adjusted poll. Michigan 7.3. He wins by 5.2 in the adjusted poll. +9 in Pennsylvania. Trump wins by 6.8. Nevada 10.9. We see the adjusted poll aggregate has him up by 11.6. Arizona, we have Trump +9. has him up by almost 6 here. That is, somewhat within the margin of error. And Georgia is the only state that's almost outside the margin of error, but is still under 3.5 percentage points. So all of the adjusted polling shows results very similar to what I have in my model forecast as of right now. Donald Trump, according to my simulations, has an 82 percentage point chance of winning the election. And so we can now fill out these states: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, which in my forecast is forecast as 11.7% as of right now. Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada all go likely, including Nebraska's second district, which is a 5.9 percentage point victory for the former president, giving him 313 electoral college of votes. We see the lean states for Biden would be Colorado, Illinois, as well as New Jersey. These states have heavy, white suburban populations, including, as well, African American and Hispanic populations, since Hispanics and African Americans are going to be shifting quite a bit to the right. I have Trump getting around 20% of black voters and Biden getting around only 45-50% of Hispanics, Trump getting around 40-45 of Hispanics. I'm going to say that these states are going to shift massively to the right, and you're going to see some of these states become competitive as the cycle goes on in polling data. However, my forecast is a modeling from previous results, current polling data, trends, etc., as well as current demographic models we've put together. And so that's why I have these states somewhat competitive this cycle. For the lean Republican states, we have New Mexico at 1.9% for Trump. This is a state that is very close to the border, has the largest Hispanic population in the entire nation besides Texas. And so even though there is not a lot of a lot of people here, and the white suburbanites do lean very Democrat here, I'm actually expecting Trump to flip this with the demographics because of the fact that the former president is gaining with Hispanics nationwide about 20 something points. So that would definitely trend the state to the right. So he's winning it by about 2 points as of right now. The state of Minnesota is a 1.9 percentage point victory. Basically, New Mexico and Minnesota essentially vote together. Minnesota kind of trends to the left, New Mexico kind of trends to the right in this scenario. Minnesota, Donald Trump actually just took the polling lead in Minnesota. If we actually look here, we will see that Donald Trump leads by Joe Biden leads by 1.9% in the 538 aggregate, but on decision desk HQ, Donald Trump does lead the aggregate by 1.6 percentage points. They have not even included, other pollsters that have Trump, doing extremely well, and they're kind of still factoring in a lot of these older polls from January, February, as well as from November. That's why you're kind of seeing polling data that is, very big towards Biden. And FAU had a very big outlier poll for Minnesota because all the polls have basically been under Biden +4, under Trump +4, which kind of runs out to a tied race. So this FAU poll is really an outlier, and that's really the only reason why Biden is leading the aggregate in the 538 one. So that is why, as of right now, Donald Trump, I have him winning the state of Minnesota. I'm more confident in it now, especially since Trump actually took the lead in a polling aggregate there. In Virginia, we see the forecast has him winning it by a 0.2 percentage points. Donald Trump is making serious gains in the state of Virginia. He's making huge shifts here. The polling aggregate on Decision Desk HQ is very competitive now. He actually took the lead by less than half a point. And we see all the polling data on here. Biden, is only up by 1 with third-party candidates. Here, it's tied. Same thing with Renault College. Even what's quite funny is that the internals for Trump are actually a little bit less favorable to Trump, even than most public polling. So there is definitely a closer race, and you can even compare that to polls from February and March where Biden led by 5. Biden led by 4 in the last Renault poll. In the last Renault poll, Biden was actually up by 4 percentage points on Trump. Now they're tied here. So that is something interesting to also note as well. We even see back in August, July, Biden leading by 9 in the Renault poll. That kind of signifies, a somewhat competitive race on the national level because the polling had Trump ahead or Biden ahead by 11 points and underestimated him by around 1 to 2. So that's how you got that Biden plus 10 win. So this probably would have signified Biden may have lost ground in the state by about a point or two. So you would have seen a Biden plus 8 forecast because of that. But now we have the state of Virginia becoming competitive, including compared to the same pollsters that were polling this same race about a year ago. And so now we see the polling is getting more competitive there. In the state of New Hampshire, Donald Trump flips it by 0.1%. This is a state that is trending super far to the right. Also, my forecast has gotten about a point closer on the nationwide level. That's why you see states like Virginia, New Hampshire, a little more competitive in my forecast right now. That's why they are a little bit closer. New Hampshire, Trump's primary performance was infiltrated by a lot of crossover Democrats, but he's still, really underperformed in that primary. And so there may be a sign of a lot of Trump erosion in the state. However, Biden's unpopularity is just so big, as well as the fact that it is an anti incumbent state. The elasticity score that has been calculated for every state is one of the highest here because of the large shifts in the state. And so I'm not surprised that it is going in the tilt Republican column. And Trump has gotten close to winning it before. He barely lost it in 2016 by 0.4% to Clinton. So I wouldn't be surprised if he were to be able to flip it, but it is a left trending state. Maine at large is the final forecast we have to make here, where Donald Trump actually wins by 1.1%. That is a flip from my last forecast. He's at 347 electoral college votes. And the polling here, is pretty good for him. The polling here is actually surprisingly good. Polls, Digital Research did recent polls in April. And what you'll notice is that with third party candidates, especially when you include all the third party candidates, Donald Trump is actually leading by quite a significant amount. He's leading quite a bit, especially compared to 2020, where a lot of the older polls from like Emerson in 2022 had Biden up 11 points. And then in November, we saw Digital Research put out a poll where Biden was ahead by 1, the same pollster who did this poll. So their results really haven't changed too much. I mean, both candidate percentage are they're way higher. They probably forced a lot of undecideds in this pollster, but you did see Donald Trump mainly improve from the polling data compared to 2022 and even polling data from 2020. If you look at that polling data, forget it. Biden was up here by 13 points. The polling data here was ridiculous. Even showed Maine second competitive, which was nowhere near the truth. We saw, here Maine 12, 14, 17, Maine second being +3 for Biden. Like we saw really skewed results in favor of President Biden in 2020. So this is just a sign that he is mainly losing ground quite a bit. So I do have the state actually flipping to Trump by a point, and I expect third party candidates to be taking a lot of support from Biden in the state, despite it being a very left trending state. If it wasn't for the third party candidates, Biden would probably be winning the state by like 2 or 3 as of right now. But because there is such a high third party influence, we see Trump is ahead by around a little over a point or so. And that is the presidential forecast. And now you might be saying, well, why are we included the Senate and the House in this video, and why I may do it like this from now on? It's because Donald Trump's coattails as well as Biden coattails in some states do affect the results. And I think it's important to provide context to my Senate and House forecast. So we see, a blank Senate map as of right now, and we have the Senate results right here. And we're going to be breaking it down state by state. We can see there are multiple safe Republican and Democrat states. As of right now, we're going to be filling out the safe Republican states, those states being the state of Utah, where currently the Republican candidates forecasted to win by 31. West Virginia, Justice is about to be projected to win by about 32 points or 22 points as of right now. Tennessee, a 23-point victory. Mississippi is a safe victory, as well as both Nebraska races. However, the main race with the incumbent Senator Fisher is going to be a little bit more competitive, but I think it's still going to be over 15 due to that third party candidate, the independent, running against the Republican this time. We see the state of North Dakota is going to be, somewhat of a safe race. It's a 22-point victory. And the reason why the results here are far better in this year rather than an off year is because we have the presidential results where both candidates affect the coattails in all these states. There is not a such thing where Josh Stein is gonna, take Biden over in a state, or Ruben Gallego is gonna help Biden win Arizona, or that Ted Cruz would help Trump win Texas. Like, that doesn't work like that. The top of the ticket controls how the rest of the down ballot races go most of the time during a presidential year. And so that's why you're going to be seeing some races that, for example, Arizona, that would go to, Gallego pretty easily. I mean, the polls look great for him, but with Trump in the state leading by so much, Kerry Lake does actually narrowly pick off the state of Arizona in my latest forecast. And for example, what's actually quite funny about Florida is that Florida is actually only a 6-point victory, which is quite interesting. Florida would actually go to the Democrat in my latest forecast. If this was an off year, that would be a stunning pickup for Democrats, because, Democrats have mainly been doing very poorly in Florida, but I think Rick Scott, without Donald Trump, would really suffer in the state of Florida. So he would actually narrowly lose his race by around 0.2%, according to my model, if this were an off year. And so we see that, in some of these states like Missouri, and for example, if we go to the state of like Missouri and Indiana, they're actually likely races. These races have been somewhat semi-competitive on both, the 2018 and 2012, Senate, maps. So I'm not surprised that these are still likely, but I could expect them to go by more. Wyoming would be, in the safe column, as well as Florida being likely, including the state of Texas, which right now Cruz would be winning that state by around 11 points in my forecast. Now, for the safe Democrat states, we have California in that column. We have the state of Delaware. We have Maryland in that column. A lot of people are very excited about Larry Hogan running. Believe it or not, he actually does about 1.2 percentage points better if Biden was not on the ballot. But this race is nowhere near competitive like a lot of the polling actually suggests. The state of Hawaii goes down to a 21-point victory. Massachusetts, Vermont are safe, including the state of Rhode Island, which is forecasted as a 20-point victory in this map. Connecticut, on the other hand, is not going to be so, hot for the Democrats, as neither is New Jersey. New York, even in this scenario, is a 19-point victory for the Democrat incumbent. Minnesota is actually still safe. Klobuchar has been an electoral juggernaut in the state for a really long time. She's forecasted to win it just above 15 points. This race would still be safe Democrat. She's won the state of Minnesota by 20 something points, when most people are able to win it, only by way less than that. So that is why you're going to see that race actually be safe Democrat as of right now, alongside the state of Washington, which is not actually going to be safe, by the way. The polling suggests a much closer race there. And so now we're going to be going into the more likely Republican states, which would be Montana. Montana is a race where he, if this were an off year, we actually see him losing by around 4 percentage points as of right now. But since Donald Trump is winning this race by such a massive amount, he's going to be able to take Sheehy with him, and will actually be able to pick off the state by about 6 percentage points. As of right now, Washington would be likely, as well as Maine at large. We'd see Angus King have his closest, race on the federal level in a long time. Connecticut would be likely. New Jersey, you do have Bob Menendez running here, so new polling should come out of the state, which should make it way closer. Right now I have it as a 10-point victory, but I would actually expect this race to get, within, 6 points if Bob Menendez is officially in the race, which I believe he is. If we look at the state of Virginia, the forecast has it as a 7.7 percentage point victory. Polling indicates that Kane would beat Hung Kao pretty easily. However, if polling data does get more competitive, which I expect it to as the election goes on, I wouldn't be surprised if the state does end up getting under 5 as of right now. And so we have a few competitive races here. The state of Ohio, Sherrod Brown is a fake moderate, and Moreno is projected to win it by around 2 points. Sherrod Brown is a very, somewhat popular candidate in Ohio, he'd actually be winning his race by 7 in an off year, according to my forecast. But with Donald Trump on the ballot, he's going to be able to help Moreno win by around 2 percentage points or so. And he's going to be able to barely pick off that Senate race there. In New Mexico, we actually have it as a likely margin, only 6 points, which is closer than all the other likely Democrat races. Donald Trump picking off the state of New Mexico is really going to help this become competitive. And if polling data here gets closer, since they're running a very popular candidate there, if polling data has the Republican challenger ahead, you are going to see this race actually narrow up quite significantly. So as new data comes out, we will see how this goes. But I do have it as likely Democrat. And you see Republicans already flip the Senate. They don't even need Ohio. They're already flipping the Senate as of right now. And Ohio is more than likely, I think, would go to Moreno, but my forecast has narrowed up from the last projection. It is a little bit more competitive than I am expecting. And unfortunately for the Rust Belt, we are going to have problems there. Pennsylvania is a 3-point win for Bob Casey. McCormick is going to get a closer race than we initially expected, but I really doubt he's going to be able to pick it off. Same thing in Michigan. Michigan right now is a 4.3 victory for the Democrat. In Wisconsin, it's about 1.5. So Eric Kovde has the shot to win this, state on the Senate level if Republicans, really get their act together and they're able to actually, really make this a competitive race, which it is. Most people have it going to Baldwin very easily, but I do have it, within 3 points. But as of right now, I can't see Eric Kovde really outperforming here enough to be able to take it as of right now. And we see in a state like Nevada, Sam Brown just got nominated for the Republicans. He barely takes a Nevada seat as of right now. He takes about 1.4 percentage points. This state is trending to the right. You have Hispanics moving to the right by quite a bit. So I would not be surprised if this was the case whatsoever. And in the state of Arizona, which will be the closest Senate race in this forecast, narrowly goes to Carrie Lake. She wins about 0.8%. Donald Trump is really the only reason why she'd be winning it in this case. And she is really doing badly in the state right now. I mean, she's down 3.6 points if this were an off year. But since Donald Trump is able to kind of go out there and really pull out that win there, she will narrowly be able to take the state as of right now, and she will be able to win by around a tilt margin in this scenario. So that puts Republicans at 54 Senate seats to Democrats 46 seats. I expect a lot of ticket splitting among ancestral Democrats. That's where you're going to see a lot of these Senate candidates outperforming the Rust Belt, while Donald Trump is actually able to pick off a lot of these states fairly easily, especially in New Mexico, Minnesota, Colorado, New Jersey. New Jersey, that race will be closer because of the fact that Donald Trump's going to get the state within a few points. But that's mainly where I see these two projections as of right now. And the last projection, we have the House, which I've actually done a model where I literally do every single district. I did every single district, all 435 districts, and we have projections for every single one of them. But to save time, whatever 270 has as competitive races is what we're going to be analyzing. They have provided us with a consensus map for Democrats. So whatever are the blank districts is what we'll be going over in this forecast. We see that, on average, the House popular vote tends to outperform Donald Trump by around 2 points. So since I'm able to see Donald Trump winning the popular vote by around 2.6% without third-party candidates on the ballot, he'd probably have the House winning by 4.6%. And so that's factored into here. And we're going to be going over all the flips as of right now for the Democrats and Republicans. The first state's going to be Alabama, where we don't really have any competitive races besides Alabama's second, which has been redistricted to be a very Democrat district. So we're going to be leaving that alone. Alaska is just one at-large district. As of right now, my forecast has it flipping by just a point, literally a point, 1.6 percentage points. It is a lean district that gives Republicans an extra seat. This district did basically become super Democrat in 2022. And so honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this race was somewhat competitive. However, We do see that this this has really shifted and trended to the left. This seat really has, but as of right now, the national environment is going to be so Republican that that district will narrowly flip as of right now. The PVI is around 8, so that is also leaning it in that column as well. So we're going to be leaving that in the lean Republican column. The next state we have here is the state of Arizona, where we have two competitive districts, Arizona's first and the sixth. We will see the first district is a hold for the Republican as of right now. Currently, the Republican actually holds it by 5, according to my forecast. He's holding it by 5.1 percentage points. And Arizona's fourth, for whatever reason, is actually leaning Republican as of right now, which is also quite interesting, even though it is a safe a Democrat seat here. However, the sixth congressional district is likely Republican here as of right now. That's kind of where I have these races going in this scenario. In the next state, which will more than likely be Arkansas, there are no competitive races. California, we do have a couple of competitive seats here. We see that, as of right now, we have the 13th district, which I actually have flipping towards the Democrats by quite an easy margin. They're winning it by about 9 points in the scenario. Biden being on the ballot is going to help some Democrats flip back some seats, but not every single seat. The 22nd district is actually a hold for Republicans. It is somewhat competitive, but they're going to be able to hold that district according to my forecast. The 27th does flip Democrat. It does actually flip back to the Democrats according to my forecast. So they are able to win that one back. We see the 41st district as of right now is a very narrow hold. It's around a 3.3 percentage point victory for Ken Calvert as of right now. And as of right now, the 47th district does actually narrowly hold for Democrats as of right now. So Democrats are able to net some seats out of California. Colorado does have that 1/8 competitive district. Will go down there. It is a hold for Republicans, so they will be holding that district very narrowly as of right now. In the next state, we're going to go to Connecticut, where we do actually have a semi-competitive, seat here. We have it going a lean Democrat here. In my forecast, it actually flips to the Republicans as of right now by less than a percentage point. So it's very close, but it does actually flip. And that would kind of make sense because my forecast does have Connecticut only going to Biden by around 11. And so if the popular vote here was around 20 points like it was in 2020, maybe a little bit less than that, it would make sense for that district to be flipping as of right now. And we go to the next state. We have Delaware, where it is going to be a safe Democrat district. Florida has no competitive districts as of right now. We go to Georgia, and they also have no competitive seats. Hawaii does not either. Idaho does not. Illinois has this one leaning Democrat district, Illinois 17th, and we'll actually go down to it. We'll see that it is actually a flip for Republicans. It is around a point flip, so that is going to lean in the Republican column as of right now. We'll go to Indiana, where there is one competitive district, Indiana's first, and we'll actually see that according to my forecast, it is a likely Democrat hold. So it's actually going to be in that likely Democrat column as of right now. We'll go to Iowa, where we do have all these districts. I do have them all going Republican. Kansas, as of right now, I don't think it's going to have any competitive districts. We have Kentucky, no competitive districts. Louisiana, same thing. Maine at large, we have the second congressional district, where Jared Golden is facing a strong challenger. Right now, I actually have that district flipping upwards of 5 points. I mean, I have Donald Trump winning it by 18. So that would kind of line up with that result. That would actually make quite a bit of sense. And what we do see here in the state of Maryland is that the sixth district is semi-competitive in a way. My forecast does actually have it as only a 2-point victory, and since it is way closer than this classification, I am going to be updating that as of right now. We also go to Massachusetts, no competitive districts. Michigan, we have the 8th and 7th districts as of right now, which really they are both flips on the map. Even the 3rd district is actually projected to flip in my forecast by 0.19%. So it's a really tight race as of right now. So that does give Republicans three flips here. We do see the 7th district flip very easily. However, Michigan's 2nd is a little bit different, or Michigan's 8th is a little different. That race is way closer, but it does actually narrowly flip. And since there is such a stark contrast from that comparison, from the map to this, I am actually going to flip Michigan's 3rd into that Republican column. So that already gives Republicans the House. They're already winning, and Democrats are at 201 seats still as of right now. Minnesota, we go here. That 2nd congressional district is actually a flip for Republicans. They narrowly flip it by 1.6%. As of right now, we'll go to the next state, Mississippi. There are no competitive seats, neither does Missouri. Montana has that one district as of right now. However, it is a 10-point victory in my forecast, so that's not even considered competitive. Nebraska has the 2nd district, which does actually go Republican. It does actually hold. It goes Republican by around 6 points. Since Donald Trump is winning the district by a lot, it probably does go that way. Now with Nevada, this is something quite interesting because the projected margins here have all these races likely Democrat, but mine says otherwise. Nevada, the 1st district actually seems to be only a 3-point win, and that would make sense. And then the two other districts, the 3rd and the 4th, are actually considered flips. The 3rd district is a lean Republican flip, and the 4th district is very competitive, but it is considered tilt Republican. This would make sense, as my forecast for the presidential race has Nevada at around 10 points for Trump. So those huge shifts there would really make a difference in some of these districts that are kind of leaning towards a likely Democrat. And Democrats actually lose seats from their projected margin here. So that is quite interesting. The next state's going to be New Hampshire, where that 1st district is, going to be a semi-competitive. We actually see that as of right now, New Hampshire's 1st would actually flip Republican. It makes sense because Donald Trump is in fact winning the state by a tilt margin. So again, wouldn't necessarily be super surprised to see that actually going that way. So that would flip, and then the 2nd congressional district in New Hampshire would lean into the Democrat column. We go to New Jersey. We see that as of right now, we'll go here. There is that one district, the 7th congressional district, which is a hold for Republicans right now. It is considered a likely Democrat district, which gets Republicans to 227 seats. New Mexico is interesting because we have that one seat that's open. Right now, it's forecast as a 4-point victory. And it would make sense because if New Mexico is trending right compared to the rest of the nation, if it's a 2-point victory, I would definitely expect Trump to end up taking that district pretty easily. Donald Trump could lose the state upwards of 5, and that would end up being probably a tilt Democrat race in the House level. And so now going into a big state like New York, where we have a lot of contested races, we have the 4th district, the 17th district, as well as the 19th. We'll go to the 4th district. We see Anthony Despacito narrowly holds on, and internal actually had him up 7 points. So this classification may actually be accurate by the time we get to the election. If an internal has him up by 7, I see a 2 to 4 point win actually being pretty realistic in this district. The 17th district is actually a flip for Democrats. Unfortunately, Michael Lawler may barely lose his seat as of right now, but it really could go either way. And if we go to New York's 19th, we do see that district does actually flip Republican as of right now, even though the Republican holds it. I mean, a lot of the redistricting has kind of thrown my model off. I'm going to have to redo the margins here, but we do see that taking into effect. North Carolina is going to be an interesting race. We do have that one district. It is a leaning Democrat district, but because of the fact that it's trending to the right, the redistricting there is very favorable to Republicans. The result ends up around a 2-point victory for the Republican there as of right now. And even in the 6th district, we actually see a flip there, which is quite interesting, which would be here. And it is safe. It is actually, it is a Democrat seat. It is safe Republican here. And right now I have it as a 3-point victory. So more than likely that's going to stay there. The 13th and 14th districts are a likely Republican areas, and they are kind of going that way. So that's not surprising either. Ohio, we do have North Dakota. It's that one seat. There's really nothing there to look at. Ohio has the 9th and 13th district. We see Ohio's 9th is about a lean margin, so that does kind of suck for Republicans. However, the first district actually flips Republican, which is kind of weird because that's where, a really big city area is. So that is really interesting. I'm going to be leaving that in the likely Democrat column. As of right now, where it was last forecast, the 13th district does actually flip, though. That's where you have a really Bernie Sanders type of, Democrat in the House there. And so I wouldn't be surprised if that were to actually flip. If we keep going, Oklahoma, it's not going to really have any competitive seats. We do have Oregon with the 5th district, which as of right now is actually a very narrow hold for the Democrats as of right now. It's a very, very narrow hold, but they do barely actually hold on. The 6th district is actually projected as a Republican flip for some reason. I don't know why, but that's what we're seeing. Same thing in Oregon's 4th. A lot of the results may be really messed up here due to redistricting. And then Pennsylvania, we also go over here. We see the 2 districts, the 7th and the 8th, by the Scranton area, which I think Joe Biden's going to underperform massively. We see these being lean, almost likely victories there. That puts Republicans with 2 extra seats. We go to Rhode Island, we see no competitive seats. We go to South Carolina, no competitive seats. South Dakota, there is none. Neither does Tennessee. Texas doesn't really even have any competitive seats either. Neither does Utah. Neither does Vermont. Virginia, we have a few here. We have the 2nd and 7th districts as of right now. If we go down here, the 2nd district is actually a likely hold for Republicans, but the 7th is actually a flip for Republicans, putting Republicans at 235 House seats. And if we go to the next state, which is Washington, we see that 3rd district is competitive. And as of right now, it actually is listed as a likely flip for Republicans. So that is very interesting. And even the 8th district is considered a tilt flip. But I'm going to be leaving that there as of right now as we continue to improve the House model. And as of right now, there are no more competitive seats. You see, West Virginia doesn't have, Wisconsin does not have, neither does Wyoming. And so that is it. That is the entire map. Republicans would be at 236 Republican seats to Democrats 199 as of right now. And we see them at that margin. The Republicans have 54 Senate seats to Democrats 46, and Donald Trump winning in a landslide in the presidential level as of right now. That is going to conclude today's video. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more content just like this. Comment down below if you agree or disagree with my projection as of right now. I hope to see you guys in the next video.